destroyed living room surrounded by the mess the police had made, and neither of us could sleep. My hands were still shaking, and every time I closed my eyes I saw those rifles pointed at my face. Mitchell kept pacing around and apologizing and saying he should have answered his phone when Karen called earlier. We tried watching TV but couldn't focus on anything, and just sat there in silence most of the night. Around 5 in the morning, Mitchell finally passed out on the couch, and I dozed off in my chair. My phone started buzzing like crazy around 7, and when I checked it, the neighborhood Facebook group had completely exploded. Someone had posted a video of all the police cars and SWAT vehicles surrounding my house, and everyone was going nuts trying to figure out what happened. People were saying it was a drug bust, others thought it was terrorism related, and one person claimed they heard it was a murder. The comments kept coming with everyone sharing what they supposedly saw or heard and making up wilder and wilder stories. Then Karen posted this vague message about how she was just trying to keep our neighborhood safe from dangerous individuals who might threaten our property values and way of life. She didn't mention any names, but it was obvious she was talking about me and trying to make herself look like some kind of hero. Mitchell woke up, and I showed him the post on his phone, and his face went from pale to bright red with anger. He started typing a response but then deleted it and threw his phone on the couch saying it wasn't worth it. We got dressed and drove to the police station where they made us wait for an hour before taking us to separate rooms for our statements. The detective who interviewed me seemed nice and kept shaking his head as I told him the whole story from the beginning. He mentioned this wasn't the first false report they'd gotten recently and that people were getting too paranoid these days. I spent 3 hours going over every detail while he typed it all up and had me sign multiple forms. Mitchell was in another room telling his side, and when we met up afterward, he looked exhausted. He told me he'd explained to the detective about Karen's pattern of calling 911 on neighbors and gave them specific dates and incidents. The detective had pulled up all those reports on his computer and found 3 calls just from this month alone, plus several more going back over the past year. Each time Karen had claimed something serious was happening, but when police showed up it was nothing. Just kids playing too loud or someone parking in front of her house or a delivery truck she didn't recognize. The detective walked us out and told us to stay available for follow-up questions if needed. Mitchell and I sat in my car in the parking lot for a few minutes, just staring ahead, not saying anything. He looked completely drained and kept rubbing his face with both hands. I dropped him off at his hotel and drove straight to the law office my neighbor had recommended a few months back when I had that issue with the contractor. The attorney was a woman in her 50s who listened to my whole story while taking notes on a yellow pad. She kept shaking her head, and when I finished, she put down her pen and leaned back in her chair. She explained that what Karen did was actually several different crimes rolled into one really dangerous situation. Filing a false police report was the obvious one, but she said the way Karen did it by claiming there was a hostage situation could be charged as attempted murder by cop, since she knew armed police would respond. She pulled out more papers and started listing all the ways I could go after Karen in civil court, too. There was the damage to my front door from when police broke it down, plus my wrists were still bruised from the zip ties, and she said the emotional trauma of having guns pointed at me in my own home was worth serious money. She also brought up Karen's Facebook posts and said those counted as defamation, since she was spreading lies about me being dangerous to the whole neighborhood. We spent 2 hours going through everything while she typed up notes and had me sign papers authorizing her to start building the case. She took photos of my wrists and the damage to my house and said she'd request the police body cam footage, too. My phone buzzed while I was signing papers, and it was Mitchell texting that he couldn't go back home and was going to stay at the hotel for a while. He said he'd been on the phone with divorce lawyers all afternoon.